Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are starting a new project in 6.5 Creedmoor, and that is because I have finally purchased what I am hoping to be a precision type rifle. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, you will have already seen a sneak peek of this rifle and the one group that I have shot with it so far. And that one group, I'll put it up on the screen for you here, was a 5-shot group at 50 yards. Pretty darn good. So I've got some high hopes for hand loading in this rifle. The load that I shot that day was the same load that we landed on for the Thompson Center Compass in 6.5 Creedmoor with the 123 grain ELDM. With the Thompson Center Compass, I was going for lighter loads with those 120 to 123 grain bullets. There was a couple reasons for that. First, that's the 6.5 millimeter bullets I already had for loading 6.5 Grendel, with the exception of the 129 grain Sierra Game Changer that we ended up loading up for the hunting load for that gun. The other reason was it was my wife's gun, and I kind of wanted to keep the recoil to a minimum, so the 120 grain bullets is what I went with. Now that I'm really getting into loading 6.5 Creedmoor and trying to load for precision, we are going to try out some 140 grain bullets to start out with. The bullet I chose for today is the 140 grain Sierra MatchKing. Now, unfortunately, I didn't do a whole lot of research on this particular bullet before I bought it. It is one of the only Sierra MatchKings in stock in the 264 diameter. What I wish I would have known before and may have waited on were the 142 grain Sierra MatchKings. From what I've heard, those are the ones that are designed for a really good ballistic coefficient and also some spot-on accuracy. But from what I've found, these are very accurate as well. That is the bullet right there, and these three that are laying out are the ones that I've used to check to see what our overall length needs to be, which we'll get to in a second. So that's the bullet. It is Sierra, part number 1740. Before I talk about the rest of the components, let me quickly mention the rifle and maybe flash a picture of it up on the screen for you here. It is the Bergara B14 HMR Wilderness in 6.5 Creedmoor. We will go over this gun a little bit more when we get out to the range, and I'll talk a little bit more about why I chose this particular rifle. But a couple of things when I was doing some research about this rifle is that in the past, it's had problems with small rifle primer brass and regular small rifle primers. So just to get any issues out of the way, right off the get-go, I wanted to start with small rifle primer brass and small rifle primers. From what I've read, most of the trouble they had was with CCI 400s and other standard small rifle primers. Well, from watching Johnny's Reloading Bench and the testing he did with different primers, he seemed to get better results with the CCI 450s, maybe the CCI 41s, I can't remember for sure, and then the Remington 7.5 small rifle primers. I have both the 7.5 and the CCI 450, so we're going to go with those. The powder for today is H4350. It and Varget are kind of the consensus powders for 6.5 Creedmoor as far as the ones that get the best accuracy. I have both powders. The load that I worked up last time for the Compass was with Varget, so I thought we'd do H4350 today. If we don't get quite the results we're looking for, we will switch to Varget. I think I mentioned all of the components. The brass is Starline small rifle primer, 6.5 Creedmoor brass. I don't know if I mentioned that quite yet. Like I said, I did go ahead and test to find the overall length we can use. We are going to be loading today using what I know so far about the Eric Cortina method. Now, you can't watch many reloading YouTube videos anymore or be on the live chats or whatever without hearing mention of Eric Cortina. He's come out with a couple of videos lately basically saying that everybody else is doing it wrong, and he probably does know because he is a competitive shooter that does F-class and stuff like that. So we are going to take his word for it today, and we're going to kind of start out with his method, at least what we know of it so far. We're going to start out with a 5-load workup, starting at an overall length of jam minus 20 thousandths. I found jam, and here's my little paper on that. I tested 3 different bullets, tested them each twice, and found that one of the shortest jam points, they were all within a couple of thousandths of each other. And I don't have a bullet comparator yet, so I am going off of overall length, not cartridge based to ogive. So we are going off of overall length here. But I found about 2.768 was our jam point. And some were a couple thousandths longer and some were a couple thousandths shorter. But that's kind of right in the middle there, so that's the one we're going to go with. We're going to start with jam minus 20 thousandths, which puts us at 2.748 inches. So that's going to be our overall length for today. We're going to do this video like we normally do, with our 4/10 of a grain charge weight increments. And we'll talk about the charge weights here in a minute. In the next video, if we get any sort of decent standard deviation and extreme spread numbers with these and any decent accuracy, we're going to go with his 3,000th overall length change increments and see if we can dial it in from there. If all goes well, we'll get at least a couple of groups that shoot well today so that we can pick a powder charge. And then in the next video, we will load all of our groups with the same powder charge and just change each overall length, shortening it by 3,000ths at a time. I started to go ahead and prep this brass, but there are a few things I'm doing differently and a few things I noticed, so I wanted to bring you guys along and show you that part. When I get new brass, I always run it through the full-length sizing die, and today I'm really glad I did. Not because the Starline brass is dinged up, it's not at all. It looks to be in perfect shape. But when I started to size it and just kind of seat the bullets on there, not actually seat them, but just stick them on, I noticed something, and let me see if I can show you here. Alright, this is an unsized piece of Starline brass. And you can see where it sits is about there. Now let me chamfer and deburr this piece of brass so that if that does anything, we'll know. And I've been hand doing all of these just because we have such a small number to do. No, still sits about the same place on there, with just the boat tail sticking in and not even all of that. So let me show you a piece of sized brass. See that? It sits in just a little bit farther to where the boat tail is all the way in. We want a pretty light neck tension on these loads, and we will actually measure the neck tension once we get there. But I think if we had just seated the bullets, everything would have been fine, but the neck tension would have been a little more than necessary. We may actually leave one of these in the very first group unsized, and we'll measure what the difference is in neck tension. But other than that, I'm going to go through and size the rest of these cases and chamfer and deburr them. I will come back to you at primer seating, and there's a few things I want to talk about there. So I'm back to the Hornady hand priming tool for now. It does feel weird to prime large rifle brass with small rifle primers. It just feels different. I don't know how. It actually feels more solid. As I said, I'm back to the Hornady hand priming tool. The Lee tool that I had been using was leaving like half moon impressions in the primer. And for precision work like this, I didn't want to do that. I don't know if it will cause any damage or throw off the extreme spreads or anything like that, but I'm not taking the chance. So I know this tool despite its many flaws, and it is very flawed, it seats primers evenly, and I have never had a primer that was dented by it, unless I put way too much force on it, or I seated a primer upside down or sideways, which it does do sometimes. But that's preventable by looking at every primer every time to make sure it hasn't flipped over or flipped sideways, and always monitoring the pressure it takes to seat the primers. Tell you what, the primer pockets in this brass feel really good, and I'm hoping with the small rifle primer in the large rifle brass, I'm hoping it will last quite a long time for us. As you guys might know, I do not have an annealing setup, so we should probably get case neck issues before we get primer pocket issues, but we're gonna hope that's doubly the case with this brass. I only have, I think, 2 firings on my Starline large rifle primer brass, and I haven't noticed it opening up, but I don't know how many we will get on it. It's all speculation at this point, and that's 25 pieces of brass primed. This other 25 pieces I'm going to leave unprimed, just in case something goes terribly wrong. And if we do get pierced primers for whatever reason, I may have to try Remington 7.5s. Actually, if I get pierced primers in this gun, I'm probably going to send the bolt in for some work right off the bat, because I know that that can be an issue with these Bergara rifles. Alright, so I momentarily forgot that I haven't turned on my powder scale yet. So I'm going to do that and switch it into never turn off mode, which I think I may have showed this on this scale before, and of course it's going all around. But if you hold the mode button, it flashes that auto off and it won't turn off. So I'm just going to set this scale down. Actually, let's put the pan on the scale, zero it out, and I will let this thing warm up for several minutes. And I'm going to go take a break, and I will come back to you when this thing's warmed up and we can throw some powder charges. All right, time to throw some powder charges. Dump some 4350 in the bowl and in the trickler. Probably don't need that much, but I can always dump it back in. Let's see what size of powder scoop we're gonna need. The scale has been warming up for probably about 20 minutes now. A little longer than I intended, but that's okay. All right, a level scoop of 2.8 cc is getting us 39 grains. Our first charge is 40.8 grains, and we're going up to a max of 42.4. So let me do a heaped scoop here and see where we get to. 42.4. Okay, so this scoop is the one we're going to use. So 40.8 grains. This trickler so far has seemed to throw really slowly, at least with ball powder. So I'm hoping it goes just a little bit quicker with extruded powder. You do want it to be slow, but it was really slow. And so far it's being slow getting filled. There, we're starting to get kernels dropping out. And I think we are fully primed. .4, 5, 7. Ooh, it is slow. And there's 8. Okay. One thing I will be in the market for fairly soon is a different funnel. This one is, it works fine for these larger cases and kind of sits on top okay and doesn't shake around too much, but it's still kind of a loose fit. And on smaller stuff that doesn't have as much support in the tray, it almost will not sit on top without me holding it. So I will be looking for a new funnel soon. If you guys have any recommendations, let me know. I don't want to spend a ton of money, but I want something fairly decent. All right, there's 40.6 on that one, and 40.8. All right, well, that's the powder charging. I'll go through and charge the rest of these cases, and then we'll see some bullets. So 2.748 is the overall length we're going for here, and get my calipers turned on, switch out our dies. I did use the Hornady standard sizing die to run through them, and we're going to use the Hornady standard seating die to seat them. I do want to eventually get the micrometer adjustable stem and swap out between these. I think it would be really handy. And eventually I want to switch over to bushing sizing dies, but I'm using what we got for now. So let's go ahead and set this thing up. I'm going to raise the ram here. And we'll screw this down till it touches the case mouth, and then we'll go out one full turn. And that should be good. All right. Now let's set, I'll back out our stem almost all the way. Okay, we're not too short on that die, but we're getting there. So let's just go ahead and seat this into the case a little bit. Oh yeah, we're a mile long. We've got to go. We're at 2.915 inches. So I'm just going to go ahead and crank that a full turn, and we'll see where that puts us. .85 inches. So by that we can go another full turn. The micrometer thing would be really handy. 2.80, go half turn. .775, quarter turn. We'll be getting there. 2.762. We'll go an eighth turn. .752. Okay, that's getting really close. Let's bump up to the next one. Definitely still some powder moving around there in the case. And we are at 2.749. That may be our setting. .754. Let's do one more here. Remember, these are hollow point match type bullets, so the me-plats are going to vary just a little bit. Which is one reason I really wish I had the bullet comparator. 2.753. Okay, I do need to come down a little bit. To get to where we want to be. That's at 2.748, which is our target. .748. This one might be just a little on the short side. 2.743. .746. Okay, so that's getting us to about where we want to be. And we'll just go ahead and seat them. 2.751. There's not that much variance in the seating die, guys. This is just the variance in the meat-plat of the bullet, which I can't really do much about right now. Oh, I did say I was going to measure neck tension. So here's that one case that no primer, no powder, but we'll just seat a bullet in it anyway. And this is the one that has not been through the sizing die. So let's measure on one that has been through the sizing die. Set that bullet down for a second so I don't drop it. Two, 0.289. Yeah, 0.289. Let me measure one more. 0.289. Good, they're consistent. Now I'll seat one and see what it changes to. .291. So we've got 0.02 of neck tension, which is absolutely perfect. That's what I would aim for. Now, I believe this one was... Oh, we haven't measured this one yet. So this case is at 0.287. 0.288, something like that. So now we'll seat a bullet, and I'm sure it's going to be the same as what we got on this last one. And I'll just pull this. This bullet won't go to waste. 0.291. Okay, so 292 maybe. So our neck tension on this one was more like 4 to 5 thousandths. If I hadn't run these through the full length sizing die, we'd be getting 4 to 5 thousandths neck tension, and instead we're getting a consistent 2 to 3 thousandths neck tension, which is much better. We will go with that. I don't think there's really anything else to talk to you guys about on the loading of the ammo. It's a good looking round, it really is. Let's go ahead and seat the highest charge just to see if we have any compression. The Hodgdon load data showed that there was a different bullet that had compression at the 42 grain load. I didn't feel any powder crunching on that, and there's still powder moving around in the case. Let's go ahead and check the overall length just for the heck of it. 2.745, so no change there. All right, I will go ahead and seat the rest of these bullets here, and we will get out and shoot them. All right, we are out here on the range, and we are about to shoot the load workup with our Sierra MatchKings. It is a Bergara B14 HMR Wilderness rifle. Comes in around the $1,050 mark. It does have a omnidirectional muzzle brake on the front here, which is kind of silly. It is a little better than nothing, but not a whole lot. That will be replaced before too long. The trigger is adjustable. I have not touched it yet. It feels to me like it's braking at about 3 pounds. The groups aren't really what we're focusing on today, though. I do want to see what shoots the best, but really the chronograph data is what we're looking at specifically. We are checking for powder charges that throw the best extreme spread and standard deviation. We will do kind of an accuracy load workup next. With that being said, this gun has already shot excellently for me. I have only taken one group with it. It was at 50 yards, and I'll put a picture of it up on the screen here. If you follow my Instagram channel, you've probably already seen that. But anyway, 3 shots through about 0.6 of an MOA, and that's great. I'm hoping we get similar results today. The barrel has been warmed up with 3 shots of Winchester ammo, and before that it had been completely cleaned, stripped down to bare metal, copper solvent, the works. I am done doing the break-in that I'm going to do on this gun. I did 1 shot clean, 5 times, then I shot that last 5-shot group that you guys saw, cleaned it again, and that's where we sit right now. So before we shoot our hand loads, I've got a box of Hornady match. This is the 140 grain ELD in here. And I did pay almost $33 for this stuff, so it is not cheap, especially right now. But we're gonna load 5 rounds of it up and see how it shoots. I'm shooting with the 5-round magazine. Even though we probably would have clearance for the 10-round, it's just easier to do the 5. All right, that's 5 shots in the magazine. Let's see how it does. I am still missing my rear bag. I think now that I misplaced it somewhere at home, but I haven't found it yet. So I'm shooting with a bag of rice today, and in my sighting in, it worked just fine. We're back here at the bench, and yes, I was just out on the range, but we're gonna skip through all that footage because you don't need to see me shoot for velocities. Because our targets, I mean, nothing grouped. And I was super worried. This right here was a 7-shot group that I shot with my previous load with the 123 grain, and it shot the best. The first 5 shots were in this little, probably ½ inch group there. But anyway, that was just kind of a fluke, because what I realized as soon as I got back to the house is the screws on my scope had come loose. So, breathed a little bit of a sigh of relief there, because I was thinking that this gun was going to be shooting like 3-inch groups, and that is not even kind of acceptable, not even a little bit. So, it's a good thing that we weren't shooting a video for accuracy. Otherwise, that whole thing would be a waste. What we were shooting for is these numbers on paper right here. And what we can see is we actually get some pretty good standard deviations and extreme spreads. Now, these aren't like high-level PRS extreme spreads under 10 feet per second, but we've got standard deviations around 8 for the most part. We do jump up on a couple of these. But what we're going to go for right now, I'm going to pick the load here with the lowest extreme spread and one of the lowest standard deviations, 41.6 grains. And we're going to load up our overall length test in 3,000 increments. That will be on the next video. Thank you guys for watching this one. If you like the video, please subscribe to the channel and support us over on Patreon, and have a good one.